Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of New Gameplay Today. Thank you for tuning in to Game Informer. I'm your host, Alex Van Aken, joined today by Ben Reeves. How you doing, Ben?
Hello. How's it going, Alex?
I am doing good, especially because we are joined by a special guest, the developer on this here game that we're looking at, Chris Sumsky. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Of course, this is The Wild at Heart, the game that you've been working on for some time as part of Moonlight Kids. That's the name of your studio, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. This looks really good. Like, I love the art style. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about the game as we get started?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So, like you said, I'm Chris of Moonlight Kids. I'm one of a handful of people working on the game. So the art you mentioned is done by Justin Baldwin. He does all of the art and a lot of the animation in the game.
Awesome.
Yes, and he's been working on it conceptually for a long time. So what we have going on here is our protagonist, Wake. He's a 12-year-old boy who we sort of cold open right here to being in his bedroom, and he's like, I need to get the supplies for the plan. So as you see, you're walking around the room, you're getting various supplies, supplies that a 12-year-old kid might think are good for
essential.
Yeah, good for what he's about to do, which as you'll pick up on pretty quickly if you haven't already, is he's about to run away from home. So
is this the 90s? I'm seeing
this is the 90s.
Nintendo and a Blockbuster VHS.
We got the game bun. I dig
the
it.
game bun. Yep.
All right, so we've got our supplies. We're going to head upstairs. So how long have you all been working on this game for?
Yeah, great question. So Justin Baldwin and our writer, Alex Atkins, they have been working on conceptualizing the game, I would say, since late 2017, early 2018.
Okay.
It was sort of part-time, because they had other things going on at the time, but, evenings kind of thing, hobby project.
For sure.
Well, more than a hobby, I would say, but time-wise, they were squeezing it in where they could. And then they brought on a programmer for a month or so, Jackson Lango, to do some prototyping. But after that, Justin got swamped with stuff and kind of fell on the back burner for a little bit, about half a year, until myself and Ankith Trivedi, who Ankith and I have been making games together for years, we sort of all partnered up. We've been friends for many years and just decided hey, this is something really cool. Let's go in on this. So we joined forces. We made Moonlight Kids, and we started in earnest on the game, I'd say around September or so of 2018.
Wow,
so we've
that's
been
awesome.
Yeah, so me, Justin, and Ankith have been full-time on the game since then till still now. So a little over 2.5 years, I think.
Where'd you guys get the name Moonlight Kids?
We just had a giant list of ideas, most of them bad. And, it just whittled it down. I think we liked the idea of, the playful, whimsical idea of Moonlight Kids, but also
what does Gusbuster riff on?
I don't know, but I like it. It's a very cool invention by this kid, by Wake.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. So yeah, Moonlight Kids was just one in a long list of games. You're well, that doesn't really suck, so let's go with that.
Yeah, and I think it was many, many weeks of kind of putting the list together and whittling it down. But I think it was probably a combo of 2 or 3 other names that were oh, this really works. So that's kind of it. Yeah. Mostly it just evokes the feeling of our studio, I think, that we were going for. So
I'm a big fan of when people are it's named this because it sounds cool,
Right, yeah. We'd ask people what do you think about Moonlight Kids? What feelings do you get? And we'd be I don't know, playful kids, moonlighting. We're cool, perfect. That's us. That's what we want.
Love it. So we are seeing Wake right now kind of leave his house, heading into the backyard. We picked up the Gusbuster vacuum tool and got the keys to leave. And so now we're going into the woods. So what was can you speak to, I know you kind of came to the project a little later, but I'm sure you can kind of speak to the concept of the game and, Wake gets lost in this, magical realm, as we'll see soon. What kind of inspired that? What kind of stories, and were these just kind of stories that have been thought of for a while? Were there any references that were like, oh, we got to make this? Can you kind of speak to that whole process?
Yeah, definitely. I think Justin and Alex are pulling a lot from personal experiences when they want to, seeding in ideas of like the Wake. I mean, not to speak for them about very personal things, but just like the idea of like kids have to deal with stuff too, and like not every story about a kid is simple and easy and lighthearted. Like by the time you're 12, you pretty much know what's going on in the world, and like that's it's just kind of like that vibe. Like tell a real story about a real kid who is dealing with some stuff, but he's still a kid, so he thinks the best idea is to run away from home, which is not how an adult might deal with it. Sure. And definitely some inspirations from things like Where the Wild Things Are, Studio Ghibli, Spirited Away, just a lot of those sort of coming of age stories where kids, whether a lot of stories handle it differently. Like sometimes it's real, like the world they end up in is real, and sometimes it's like, was it all a metaphor? Was it in their head, like Pan's Labyrinth or something like that? So we it's a hodgepodge of inspirations from all that we're sort of pulling from story-wise. And so I think Justin and Alex in the early days put a lot of time into crafting that overarching story. And then, Alex Atkins, he's the writer behind all of it. So all the lines you see and everything is his baby. So.
And I love the leaves in the foreground, making that like sort of, vignette of the level. That's a really nice touch.
Yeah, we actually early, I don't know if maybe the first year or something, we never had those. And the reason we ended up adding them is because people were having a hard time telling like where the edge of the level was.
Yeah, so fair enough.
They try, I mean, you don't have your spritlings yet, but they would try to like basically do things outside of the bounds of the level and be like, oh no, there's no level back there. So Justin came up with this idea of like bordering the level, but it's still feeling very tonally.
Kind of blending that form and function.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. So we are kind of we saw like the first hints at these spritlings just a second ago, and we're kind of trying to make Wake is trying to make his way over to the spriteling we saw.
And here you're also learning how to use your Gust Buster and new mechanics, and just kind of getting a feel for those core things you can do.
Also, I have to say, like one thing that I noticed while I've been playing this is just the soundtrack is so good. It's one of my favorite parts about this game. You've got all sorts of synths and ambient guitars in the background. It's just like really kind of evokes some of those feelings that
definitely mad shout out to our composer Amos Roddy, who has just done an incredible job on all the music and stuff, and just kind of nailing it, like taking our vision and tone and everything and putting it to music perfectly, I would say. And all the sound design is Matt Morgan, so everything that's not music pretty much is Matt, so they have really knocked it out of the park.
All right, let's head into the tree.
So here we go. Yeah. It's a perfect Matt showcase for you right there. Little audio only section.
Yeah. I like that it says old weirdo. That's a great touch. There's a lot of those like little touches I've noticed while playing this.
Definitely. And if you pay attention throughout the entire game, like some of that stuff it's a theme or a motif that Alex has carried throughout. So lots of touches like that.
And so I guess this answers it, but are we going to see, I know we're going to see other characters like Greycoat here, but like, Are there NPCs in this game? Like, what are we just kind of interacting? How are we interacting with these characters on a more general level?
Yeah. So here in the intro, you're kind of just getting accustomed to Wake's story and his early motivations, and you literally fall into the deep woods here. You meet Greycoat, old weirdo here, and that kind of is just like the next step, the next bait, essentially, to keep you moving forward. And this whole leg of the game is pretty linear, as we simultaneously need to introduce you to the story, but also introduce you to all the gameplay and stuff. But then eventually, once you get a little bit in, you come to their headquarters, which he's about to sort of name drop here in a second. But once you get to their headquarters, there's more Green Shields there. That's who Greycoat is. He's part of the Green Shields. And then throughout the game, you'll even but you'll venture out and find more Green Shields who will then go back to the headquarters, the Grove. So a large cast of NPCs and characters, and they have a lot of dialogue. There's a good bit of side quest and optional content involved with them. So yeah, and then even outside of the Grove, outside of the Green Shields, there's a handful of other NPCs who are a little more wild, a little more, you're not sure what their motivations are sometimes. They don't necessarily, they're not really part of like the good and the easy good and evil categories. They're just kind of live in the Green Shields live in the Deep Woods, and you can have little side stories with them.
And so Greycoat gave us the shiny rock, this little crystal.
he gave you shiny rock, and now he's calling you on it to kind of show you how to use it.
It does feel like a story that a kid might come up with, when they're out wandering the woods by themselves.
Totally, yeah.
Like, oh, this wizard gave me this rock, and now he's communicating with me on it.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what was it called? Shiny rock.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that ties into the Green Shield's larger story. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but you'll notice a lot of the items you get early on and throughout the game have names like that, like Shiny Rock and Book. And there's a reason for that. I mean, it's partially what you're saying, Ben, but there's also like a deeper underlying thing going on there that I don't want to spoil right now.
For sure.
And you spent all that time like coming up with a name for your company, and you're like, we're done. We'll just call them what they are.
Shiny Rock. That's right.
Okay, so we've got our first Twigling.
Here we go. Yeah.
So they can pick up resources for us, break down walls, attack enemies, and more. So fast workers immune to toxic gas. Cool. So were you going to use Q to pick them up? I'm playing on mouse and keyboard right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say for everyone out there watching, we do highly recommend game controller if you have it.
Perfect.
We've tuned it a lot for that, but we've spent a lot of time also for all you mouse and keyboard fans out there. Do want to make sure it works well. So
yeah, I'll say I've had no issues, but that's a good note.
Yeah, so here you're getting into it now. So this is like the Spraylings are definitely the core, the heart and soul of the game here. So yeah.
Use your vacuum, Alex.
Thank you.
There we go.
Thanks for that hint.
Mm-hmm.
There definitely seems like I'm getting a bit of a Pikmin vibe from those.
Oh yeah, characters. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, early on, again, really early on, before I was even involved, before we sort of started on the game in earnest. I think Justin and Jackson had an idea that the game might be more like Pokemon-esque, or like collecting creatures for like a totally different mechanic set. And that didn't really work out for a number of reasons, but we kind of quickly pivoted to the Pikmin model. And a lot of that is just because, we're happy to say like, yes, this is a Pikmin, like it's a Pikmin-like even, if that's even a term. So we just don't think there's enough Pikmin genre of games out there, and
I was going to say,
really love it. Yeah,
Nintendo's not really making more Pikmin games, so it's like, well, I guess we got to do it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a handful for sure, but one thing we've never seen, and I'm not saying it doesn't exist because it very well might, but one thing we really wanted to do is take the Pikmin core mechanics. So you have a herd of guys following you around, and you're really assigning them to do most of the stuff for you. But instead of putting that in like a level-based thing like what Pikmin does, take those mechanics and plop them into like a big open seamless adventure world, like what you might see in like a Zelda type game or a Hollow Knight or something like that. So that was kind of our elevator pitch. It's like, what if you took Pikmin mechanics and put them in like a big seamless adventure world?
Yeah. I'm gonna go get my Spriteling back.
Yeah, he's just chilling on the boulder there.
He's like, I'll keep trying.
I'll keep trying. I think it's too heavy. So there's another one right there. He's getting a little swarmed by guys. So.
Oh no. Yeah, you can help out.
Yeah, join the fray.
You also have the vacuum mechanic, almost like Luigi's Mansion. Mm-hmm. That's what that reminds me of.
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit of a fusion of Luigi's Mansion and Ghostbusters. So there's definitely some more 90s things going on there. But yeah, once we were on, I mean, I think the Ghostbuster as a narrative device was always in the picture, and like Wake is kind of like a tinkerer, an inventor. So that was always there. But once we had pivoted to the Pikmin gameplay, we were saying, okay, what's our version of the whistle here? Like, if you're not familiar with Pikmin, the main way you kind of collect your guys up and organize them is with this whistle. But we didn't want to just have a whistle, obviously, so we were like, what can we do? So we decided Wake's Vacuum was our version of that. That's how you interact with your spritelings and recall them and pull them out of harm's way and things like that.
Sure. Do you have to worry about your spritelings dying? I don't see a health for them.
You do. Yep, eventually. How much do I want to say about that right now? I'll just say, you definitely do. I mean, them dying is part of the loop of the game for sure.
Okay. Do I have to worry about my pets dying?
Your pets?
My personal pets? Do you think that's an issue I need to worry about?
No, I don't think so. I mean, are you throwing them at like mushroom creatures and big frogs and stuff?
Well,
yeah, you're probably good then, I think. Yeah.
Hey, we moved the boulder.
There you go. You're well on your way.
Well on our way. Oh. Forgotten path. Mm-hmm. So I know we've only got a few minutes left, Chris, but is there anything you wanted to kind of touch on or talk about that really drive home before we kind of start to wrap up here in a few?
Let's see. I mean, yeah, I'll say like the intro is highly crafted to, like I said before, like to get you introduced to the story, to the mechanics, to both the vacuum and the spritelings. It's a lot of unique, like we don't just give you a sword and tell you to swing it at enemies. I mean, I love those games as much as the next guy, but that's just not what we're doing here. And I think part of the challenge we learned early on was we have to do a lot more quote unquote teaching, but we don't want people to know they're being taught. Sure. So what that ends up meaning is that this intro part is, how long have we been playing here? 20 minutes or so. And, it keeps going like this for a little bit. It starts to get a little more nonlinear in the next area coming up. But all that to say is this intro spends a lot of time getting you introduced to stuff and things like that. But it does quickly ramp up to where like, oh, wow, now I have a herd of spritelings and like all of these directions I can go and a lot of exploring and just you start to feel it out as a player. Like what's your play style? What's your preference? And you have a lot of spritelings to do it all with. So the meat of the game we're going to get to it here.
Sure.
But we are, we're very proud of that. And I think if any of this sounds interesting to anyone, like I think you're really going to dig what we've got going on here.
I like this guy, this tea kettle guy.
Yeah, this is Scrap Heap.
Again, tea kettle weirdo.
It's a tea kettle weirdo, yep.
Well, when is this coming out, Chris? And where? What platforms?
Yeah, we launch in 8 days, May 20th.
Oh, wow. We're almost there.
We are almost there, yeah. and it will launch on PC and Xbox.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for watching the first 20 minutes of The Wild at Heart. Of course, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the Game Informer YouTube channel, go check out Moonlight Kids. I'm sure they're on all the socials. I know there's an official website, so go check them out, give them some love. And of course, head over to GameInformer.com for the latest news, previews, reviews, and features on your favorite upcoming games. All right, bye everybody.